Hey folks, in this video, I want to share with you how to enter in your monthly cash flow budget from the Planning for Profit software into your accounting program. Now, in this particular video, we're actually going to use Quickbooks as the accounting program because about 85% of contractors across the entire nation use Quickbooks as their software. If you don't have Quickbooks, don't worry about it. You will have a very similar process in whatever accounting program you're using. So, first thing I want to do, right, is explain why we would want to do this. Right? Remember, the Planning for Profit software tool is not an accounting program. It's a planning tool. Your accounting program is a history document. It tells you what happened last week, last month, last year. Here, we're looking into the future. We're looking 12 months down the road using this tool. However, it's also creating your budget for you, your month-by-month cash flow budget. And so one of the things we want to do is we can enter in that month-by-month cash flow budget that we created here into your accounting program, and now let your accounting program do what it was designed to do. Track your actual expenses, and you can compare them back to what you thought they were going to be when you created the budget. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is I'm logged into my software program, and you can see at this point I've got Mr. Magoo's Heating and Cooling up here. It's my standard business model for 2023. This is my actual working copy. So I'm simply going to, on my menu, scroll down here to Reports, and we'll do this live with you. I'm going to go to Reports, and then I'm going to go, the third report down is your monthly cash flow. That is your month-by-month cash flow budget. Now keep in mind, when we're in here, whatever's highlighted at the top is what you're going to see down at the bottom. And so at this point in time, it doesn't show up real well here on this particular screen, but my service department is what's highlighted. That's why you're seeing the service department numbers down below. Keep in mind, all you need to do is simply select another department. Now for this budget, what you really want to do is you want to go and choose all departments. We want to create this budget for your company as a whole, because odds are your accounting software isn't tracking it for a given department. So I'm simply going to click on all departments. At that point, it will crunch all my numbers, and now we're seeing all of our budget numbers for all departments in the company. Now, what you can do here is on this top section, I want to print out a copy of this budget so I can then go over to QuickBooks and use it there. Now, at the top of this report, you can see our menu section up here. This item right over here has in here Include in Print. To make life a little bit easier for you, you can simply shut off the individual departments and only leave all departments turned on. And so in this particular case, I will shut off my service department, shut off the installation department, and the replacement department. I'm only leaving the print for all departments turned on. Now, when I scroll down on this particular report, in the bottom left-hand corner, you will see a print button down there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to go ahead and print this particular report. So we've got it here on the particular screen. Again, I can see this is the budget for all departments. It's all the same information that was in the last screen that we were just looking at. So to print this thing out, all I need to do is now click on Print This Page. And as I do that, it's going to format in a form that we can actually use. If I wanted to, in fact, if you notice here, printed it to a PDF document, you could, at this point, use this particular document, send it digitally, or you can actually just print this off on your individual printer simply by clicking on the print icon right up here in the corner. So we can go ahead and click on that, select the printer that we're going to use, and click on Print. It's now sending that document off to the printer itself. Now, once you've got that in hand, we're ready to go over to your accounting software and get started over there. Okay, now we're going to switch over to the QuickBooks software and show you how to enter this data that you just printed off. Now you can see I've already got my QuickBooks desktop version loaded up. Again, I'm using the desktop version. If you're on the online version of QuickBooks, it'll be just a little bit different, but you're going to follow the same general steps. So in here, I've got my company, Larry's Landscape and Garden Supply, is loaded up, ready to go. Right? And all I'm going to do is on the menu across the top, I'm going to go into Company, is the area that I'm going to jump into. When I go into Company, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm looking for Planning and Budgeting. And when you hover over that, you're going to get two options. One is create a cash flow projector. Not a fan of that one. I don't think it works very well. It doesn't really do a nice job of projecting that. I would stay away from that one. The other one is set up budgets. So when you click on that one, if at any time in the past you've played in here at all, it may jump right to this page with a budget in here. So you can see in mine, it jumped right into it. It's got my chart of accounts here, but there's nothing in it. Now, you could actually start this one. This one happens to be for actually calendar year 2023-24, right? You could actually go in and enter all of the data from scratch. But I'm going to give you a little quick shortcut that'll save some of that data entry for you. If you didn't get this screen, you may have jumped right into the setup wizard. That's where I want you to go. So even if you've got this one here, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see this create a new budget. That's what I want you to choose. So if you go ahead and click on that, the wizard is going to start to run, and I can see here, okay, create a new budget. It's the create a new budget wizard, right? And it's asking me, specify the year that you want to create this budget for. So I'm creating it for, I'm going to say 24-25, only because I know I've got an older one in there. Now it's asking you, choose the budget type. Do you want a profit and loss budget type or balance sheet? We're looking for a profit and loss. So that's already selected. Click on next. Next window that pops up is, what about additional profit and loss budget criteria? You can actually, when you get really detailed and in here, create a profit budget, nailing it down to individual jobs or classes if you're using that in your particular software. In our case, I'm going to select no additional criteria. We're just entering the budget for the company as a whole. Next window that pops up is going to be this one here. It's asking you, choose how you want to create the budget. Now you have two different options. The first one is basically create a budget from scratch, which is really what I had on my screen a little bit ago, where it had the general ledger accounts down that left-hand side and the entire window, the spreadsheet, was empty. And you're literally entering in every single number from scratch. The other option is create a budget from the previous year's actual data. Now, again, if you've actually created your planning for profit model like we suggest in the planning for profit workshops, we told you to print the profit and loss statement for the last 12 months and use that as the foundation for creating your cash flow model. Well, if we're using last year's actual numbers, then that can actually save you some work here. So I'm simply going to choose create the budget from the previous year's actual data. Now I can click on finish. And when I do that, if you notice, it now brought up a budget. Got all my general ledger accounts here down that left-hand side. Now again, in the workshop, if you created your cash flow budget using the general ledger accounts and names like we recommend, they should match up pretty closely. There's going to be a few small differences, but it should be relatively easy to find and to follow. In the numbers section then, it's actually pulled all the actual expenses from last year for this time period. Now, in my particular case, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start out with the revenue side of it. All right, so we're going to start out landscaping services. We've got the design services, right? I can see my individual GL account numbers here. Now I can put in all the individual detail, or I can go right to the actual income section and enter it in there. Now, in my particular case, right, so I'm going to enter in the individual detail, right? So I can see, again, in my particular case, my fiscal year is running from October through September the following year. In January, I may end up with, let's say, $5,000. Right now, quick, easy, make it simple to enter your data. Right, and I understand it might be a little bit tough to see this here, but if you hit the tab key on your keyboard, it will automatically bounce you to the next month. You don't have to be hitting it with your mouse or anything like that. So I'm going to go through and start entering in my data. We did another $5,000 in December, and then we go to maybe it's $6,000 in December. We're doing a little bit of snow plowing in our landscape company here, right? And then in January, right, it's way down. February, we've got our numbers. That's still down. March is still pretty low. And then we're going to start doing some cleanup in our landscape company, right? So those numbers start coming back up again. right? And in May, we're picking back up. And just keep working across all the way through the year itself. And when we get to the end of the year, the next time I hit tab, you notice here, I'm all the way over on the far right-hand side. That's the end of my fiscal year. The next time I hit my tab key, it will automatically bounce me down to the next line and be ready to start entering in data on the other side. So when I hit tab, I can see it immediately bounced down to the next line, in this case, design services, and I can start entering in there. So it makes the data entry very quick, very easy all the way down the line. Now, when you've got this done, you're simply going to go all the way down. There's two things that you need to remember. The first one, remember those big differences between cash flow and accounting. The first major difference was equipment replacement cost versus depreciation. Now, if I scroll down on my profit and loss statement, I'm going to find depreciation. There it is, right? That line right there, and I've got depreciation listed in here. Remember that depreciation is an accounting thing. Equipment replacement cost is a cash flow item. Depreciation will typically be 25 to 35% less than your actual equipment replacement costs. What I recommend that you do is you actually put in your actual equipment replacement costs, and that's going to show up on the report that you just printed off. That's the number you put in here. Just keep in mind when you print this report each month that this number will be a little bit higher than what it actually is because of that difference between cash flow and accounting. The second major difference that you will see is income expense. So if I come down on my P&L here a little bit farther, I should see, whoops, there we go, right down here. I see the general ledger item for income or interest expense rather. Now remember, from an accounting standpoint, interest expense is only taking into account the interest that you paid on any loans. Cash flow, on the other hand, looks at the entire loan payment. All right, so we have to make sure we keep that difference. My recommendation for you is, again, put in the full dollar amount here, your full loan payments that you're making and interest. That's the way we set it up in the Planning for Profit software. And at that point, just keep in mind when I run this report, that number is going to be higher. It shows you on a monthly basis what your actual expenses were in that particular case. So once I get that data all entered in, down in the bottom corner here, I'm going to go ahead and hit Save for this particular budget. So let me just bounce down there. I'm going to save that one. It's now creating this budget in my software tool, and we have that one set and ready to go. Now, the nice part about this is once you've entered that data once, you don't have to do it anymore for the rest of the year. It's already in there for the whole year. Now, we let your accounting program do what it's designed to do. Track the actual expenses that you hit, and we can now compare that to our budget. So on a monthly basis, we can now go here into Reports. And when I go into Reports, I'm simply going to scroll down until I hit Budgets. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the second one down, which is Budget versus Actual. And when I'm inside there, it's going to say, okay, select the budget that you want to use. We're going to go ahead and choose that budget that we just created. And then the other one is select the report layout for the budget report. I want the accounts, by account, by month is what I'm looking for. I want to see each individual month and then go ahead and click on Finish. So we're there at that point. It creates that budget. In this case, it's for the entire fiscal year, right? In my case, I take that back. It's for this fiscal year to date is what it did. So it ran that one. Now, I might want to look at this if I'm running it at the end of the month. I want to see how I did last month, right? So I could go in here and I can simply choose, right, maybe just last month, right, or a particular month that's there. So in my particular case, it just brought up November 2024. It's showing my, again, a little bit small here, but I can actually see the actual numbers for November 2024. Here's what the budget had, and then we have the dollar difference between budget versus actual, and then also the percent difference, what percentage, how far off were we from the actual budget. Now, in a lot of cases, I don't need to have all this data, all those columns, right? And so, maybe I don't want that percentage column over there. It's just extra numbers that we don't need. I can change that simply by coming up here into Customize the Report, choose that one, and in the columns and rows to display right down here, it basically gives us add subcolumns for, and it's show actuals, show the dollar difference, show the percent of budget. That's the one I want to shut off. I can say OK, and it will immediately reconfigure my report with just the columns that I'm looking for. It's a good, quick, easy way, and as long as you're entering your data on a regular basis, at the end of every month, you can come back to here, find out how you did on budget versus actual. And I would actually look at not only this given month, but then also look at the entire year. How are you? Because last month may have been okay, but for on the year, we're starting to get out of control a little bit, right? I'd be looking at both of those on a regular basis. That's it. If you've got any questions using this software tool, entering in your cash flow report into the cash flow section of the software, or any other aspect of the Planning for Profit software, give our offices a call. We'd love to help you out.